They finally found the fraud in last week's election. Let me set this up for you. In 2020, it was all fraud. The presidential election was fraudulent because Trump lost. Kari Lake's loss in Arizona for governor was fraudulent because she lost. And in the first hours of election day last week, Trump was claiming voter fraud in Pennsylvania. They were saying we need law enforcement in Detroit because of fraud. And then as it became clear that Donald Trump was going to win, the number of posts about fraud on Twitter declined precipitously. MAGA Mike Johnson said, fortunately, there was no fraud this time because we won.
Check this out. Notice how the MAGA playbook works. When they lose, it's all fraud everywhere. But the second they win, dead silence. Like, think about it. MAGA Mike Johnson basically said, oh, look, no fraud this time because we won. Hell no. This perfectly shows how these fraud claims are just a political tool. When they win, the system works fine. When they lose, suddenly there's massive conspiracy. You feel me?
Jim Jordan went on CNN, we'll look at the clip later, and said, there was no fraud this time. We fixed the fraud because they won. But there is one guy who pathetically, humiliatingly, and childishly is now saying there was fraud. There was fraud. His name is Eric Hovde. This is this California rich dude who claims to live in Wisconsin to run against Democratic incumbent Tammy Baldwin. Tammy Baldwin won. She won. And now Eric Hovde is saying there was fraud. He posted an excretion to X yesterday, where he said, quote, many people have reached out to me with concerns about the voting inconsistencies we experienced on Election Day. Here are my thoughts. Here is Eric Hovde. I apologize. I just punched the microphone. I know that's unpleasant for people with headphones. I'm going to try not to do it again. I'm just getting so worked up about this. Here is Eric Hovde, and he's essentially blaming the infamous massive dumps. There was a dump of ballots that he finds very suspicious.
Many people have been wondering why I have remained quiet since election night. I believe it's better not to comment until I have the facts.
Right.
Wisconsin Election Commission is in the final process of finalizing the canvass from last Tuesday's election. Like many of my supporters, I was shocked by what unfolded on election night. At 1 a.m., I was receiving calls of congratulations, and based on the models, it appeared I would win the Senate race.
All right, hold up. Let me break down what's really wild here. This dude was celebrating at 1 a.m., thinking he won based on the models. You know what those models didn't include? Mail-in ballots. This is exactly like watching someone declare victory in a marathon after the first mile. Come on, man. This isn't fraud. It's just basic math. But they don't want you to understand how vote counting actually works.
And then the dumps.
Then at 4 a.m., Milwaukee reported approximately 108,000 absentee ballots, with Senator Baldwin receiving nearly 90% of those ballots. Statistically, this outcome seems improbable, as it didn't match the patterns from same-day voting in Milwaukee.
It didn't match. It didn't.
Where I received 22% of the votes. Since last Wednesday, numerous parties have reached out to me about voting inconsistencies, such as certain voting precincts in Milwaukee having turnout of over 150% of registered voters, and in some cases...
As always, these claims are never true. Look, don't even take my word for it. They love to claim twice the number of people who live there voted. It's not possible. That's right. It's not possible. It didn't happen.
Cases over 200%. Additionally, in 2020, President Biden received 10 million more votes than Vice President Harris did last Tuesday.
Of course, that number has since diminished dramatically.
Yet in Milwaukee, even though the population of Milwaukee has declined and registered vote...
All right, you get it. Milwaukee. Listen, we are supposed to believe, if you believe Eric Hovde, we are supposed to believe that Democrats rigged the Wisconsin Senate election, but they forgot to rig the presidential one, where...
This right here is the most fascinating part. They want us to believe Democrats are smart enough to pull off this massive fraud scheme, but somehow dumb enough to forget about the presidential race. Think about it. Why would anyone rig a Senate race they don't even need, but ignore the presidential race they could have won? That's like breaking into a bank to steal the pens, but leaving all the cash. These conspiracy theories fall apart the second you apply basic logic.
But they forgot to rig the presidential one, where Kamala Harris...
Look, here's what's crystal clear after watching this. These fraud claims aren't about protecting elections. They're about protecting egos. If this video made you think, damn, he's spitting facts, smash that subscribe button, because we're going to keep exposing these political games. No filter, no BS, just real talk. Drop your thoughts below, especially if you caught other holes in these fraud claims. Peace out.